I'm fluent. That's not chill. Murray Warnoff from Ad Taxi is going to help you become more fluent in figures. You know, my favorite part of sports are the numbers. Murray, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for asking, Tom.
So I was fortunate enough to see kind of your pre-Super Bowl survey numbers, and a lot of things popped out to me that I found interesting. 30% of Americans are going to stream the game. 29%, only 29% were going to buy alcohol? Is that just because they already had enough alcohol at home? Because I don't believe that number at all.
Well, like you, I did. Also, we saw the continued return of people now nesting at home to watch the game by themselves or with family, but getting together with friends and people going to bars who don't necessarily have to buy in advance of the game. So yeah, that's a pretty strong number.
That's a strong number. Okay. Because when I saw 29%, I guess I think 30 something percent said they were going to go to a party or go watch it somewhere else.
Right.
So I guess they weren't considering that buying alcohol let's be honest, if they were out somewhere, they were buying alcohol, right?
Or if the man in the home is buying, but his spouse doesn't have to, or vice versa. Right.
Ah, okay, okay. So this is why I find this interesting. So what we're gonna do? So Ad Taxi does. Do you guys do this survey kind of every year, and then
Oh yes.
okay?
Oh yes.
So I want to get into what we found this year, but also kind of what trends, what things have been changing. I'm assuming that going out and enjoying the Super Bowl with people over the last few years, obviously due to the pandemic, that number I'm assuming is obviously gone up. But is there anything about this year's Super Bowl, pre-Super Bowl, the survey, that was the most shocking to you? Like when you saw it, because I do a lot of deep dives into numbers, and I think I know something. And I'm like, oh, I'm very surprised by that. What was the one that surprised you the most?
Well, as you had mentioned, we've been doing this for 4 or 5 years now, and we've seen the trend lines. So while no survey is absolute, when you look at this year after year, we kind of saw what was coming. So it wasn't a surprise to me. I'll tell you what was a little bit of a surprise, and you had mentioned people not nesting at home, but venturing out, getting together, parties and whatnot. I thought last year might have seen the majority of the return of this, but that continued this year as well. So a number of people last year who still nested at home but wanted to go out, get together with friends and whatnot, that continued this year. Something like 32% of us, almost a third, right? Said they would stay at home. Oh no, yeah, would either have a party at their house or go to someone else's house, go to a restaurant or bar. So the fact that that went up a little bit more, that was party at my house was 16%, where last year it was only 10, right? So people were at home, didn't invite people over. The people who said I'm going to go to someone else's house climbed from 10 to 13. You add in bars, which is another 3%. So now over half, 57% of us who tuned into the game did so in a more party-like atmosphere. So that I didn't think that growth would continue this year. I thought it would all have been done post-pandemic last year, but that continued this year.
Yeah, I would have thought they would have just the first opportunity, let's
Right.
flood out there. But it's been more of a slower rollout, which I guess some people are more cautious, and that makes sense. What about you? Where did you watch the game?
Across the street, with a number of other people. I did bring alcohol, so I did buy in advance. I also made some chicken wings, which I had to, buy and make in advance. We watched it on a streaming TV, and so I don't know. There were about 10 of us all together.
I feel like that's the biggest one. So how are we? Because I see numbers, and I question, because I'm going to go back, and I know that's not we're not necessarily here to talk about this, but it was interesting information. On Christmas Day, they showed the numbers, what the NFL games, the viewership was, and the NBA games. And there was a big discrepancy. Obviously, NFL got a lot more in the US. When you look at this, have they got it down yet between the cable TV, the streaming services, like the streaming TVs, like all the ways that you can watch the game? How accurate do you think that when we find out the actual numbers later, how accurate could those possibly be? Because there's so many ways to access these shows and these games now.
You raise a great question, and at least a great question for me. I've worked over a decade in broadcast TV, and you have to remove the spin. You really have to dig in. Is the information available? Yes, it is. Does the average person get to see it? No, they don't. If you go online right now, you'll see reported about 113 million U.S. persons tuning into the game. That is very specific to Fox TV network, Fox digital streaming, but it does not include, right? You could have watched the game on Fubo, Hulu, Sling TV, YouTube, Direct TV, NFL Plus, right? You could have gotten it a lot of different ways. As a matter of fact, the NFL and Nielsen, the company known for measuring TV, said that actual viewership of the game was well over 200 million of us, just over 2/3 of all people in the U.S. And so when you see Fox reporting 113 million, that's a fraction. That's just under half of the total number. So I know how to dig, I know how to look, but the average person isn't going to get the real breakout.
So, okay, I'm curious then. So I'm Fox. I get paid my money with at least a big portion of it from Super Bowl ads. Why am I using the smaller number? I'd be definitely saying over 200 million people watch this.
They don't get that revenue.
Ah, okay.
Right? They may get paid something for the broadcast rights, but they're not getting the $7 million a spot. Right?
Is that what it is? That I'm sorry to sidetrack. Is that what it is now? $7 million a spot?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes, it is.
Wow. Do you remember half of the commercials you saw this game? Because I don't. Someone asked me what my favorite one was, and I forgot 3 of them that were my favorites.
Right. I remember
I shouldn't say that. The advertisers are going to kill me.
I hit the 2 or 3 that connected with me.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So sorry. Let's get back. So over 200 million. Sorry. When you said 7 million, hadn't realized it had gotten that. Wow. So over 200 million. And that's from last year's Super Bowl, or is that from this year's? Or do we have all the accurate or all the numbers from this year's one yet? Kind of
not a total.
Yeah.
But if last year it was 208 total, and as with what is being reported, we're seeing the gains. It's probably over 210, right? But less than 220.
Okay. And because this one was I think it was top 5, right? In terms of all-time Super Bowl viewership.
Third most.
Third.
Yeah.
And the halftime show, I believe, I want to say it was second, if memory serves me correctly.
Rihanna can draw in the crowd. Can't she? Yes.
Yeah. It's so funny. Everyone, for those that were watching with me, I'm like, oh, I think this person's going to come out. I think nothing. She did it all by herself and pregnant and still second highest viewed. So good for her. That's incredible. As the second one, just like I said, it was real. Did you like it? I've been hearing mixed reviews. I liked it. Did you like the halftime show?
I actually like that kind of music. So
okay.
It pertained to me. When you ask people in advance, what are you most excited about? Why are you really tuning in? More this year said the game more than anything else, followed then by the ads. And those who said, oh, I'm tuning in for the halftime show. Well, it was the third ranked. But remember that 113 million number that Fox is saying was viewership is actually an average of viewership, right? If you're a Nielsen monitored individual, you've got a little device, a personal measurement device. You step out of the room, it says you're not watching. You may, go sit at the kitchen table and eat something, in the second quarter or whatever. So that's an average of what happens. But for the halftime show, it looked like pretty much everyone who was watching sat in front of it and watched. It was a heck of a spectacular.
It was. That's why. And I was curious because I knew I was glad you brought that up. Is that, do we have that breakdown of, was it mostly in the first quarter, second quarter? Obviously, you said halftime show was obviously peaked, but third quarter, fourth quarter, is it typically the fourth quarter that gets the most viewership? Because especially in a close game, that would make sense to me, but I don't know. Some people tuned it in. My household's very different, right? If you surveyed us, my wife and I watched for the game. My son watches for the commercials, and my daughter watched for the halftime show. So we've got every base covered.
Right. But if you're still in the room and you're holding that personal measurement device, it's counting you as a viewer, correct? If you're like me, I walked out of the room when Philly lost their momentum, and it appeared to me KC was going to win. I I got up and walked out of the room, but that's me. Again,
I think we know where your fandom lies.
trying to hide the accent.
I'm cheating because I know, but I think most people know somewhere Jersey area. Yes,
Born in New York, raised in Jersey. Yeah,
we
go
have.
Philly.
Well, we had quite a few Philly fans on our network, so they weren't the happiest group
Right,
on Monday or Sunday night and Monday morning.
right.
So that's interesting. But am I correct? Was the fourth quarter kind of that peak?
I haven't seen that breakout,
Oh,
but you are correct. In a game like this, if it's a blowout, you're right. Nothing happens much in the fourth quarter. In a game like this, I'm sure the second half had higher viewership.
so I'm going to ask you two more questions. The first one, because I'm international, the first one is: do we have numbers on, again, maybe not this Super Bowl yet, but previous ones? How many people are watching? I get it. The NFL is huge in the US and in most other countries, not as huge, but there's some, right? There's a lot of fans in the UK and Canada. Like,
Yes.
what are those other countries? Where do they lie in terms of their viewership, specifically for the Super Bowl?
Viewership outside the U.S. on average comes in in pure number, about 50% of what we see in the U.S.
Oh, wow.
So last year, if we had, let's say in total, 208 million of us tuning in, it was around 100 million, just over
Another
100
100,
million
100 million around the
outside.
world. Wow.
Right.
Okay, so 300 million. So that's quite a bit. Has that been growing steadily or has it been consistent?
Well, this is why the NFL plays at least a game a year in England, right? I don't get up at 5 a.m. to watch it or whenever the heck they play. But yes, not as fast as soccer has grown here in the U.S. And I was curious about this. What do they call this in Europe?
Um,
Do they call this soccer? Well, I
this
don't know what they call us.
this is American. This is American football. However, it is interesting to me because the names make a lot more sense the other way around.
Yes.
And this is gonna maybe age me, or at least my dad, because my dad this is my dad's joke, okay? Is that football, because we're of Greek descent and it's called podosfero, which literally translates to football, right? Because you
Right.
kick it with your foot all the time. And my dad says, in like the 50s and 60s, if you were to sock someone, it was like you were hitting them. So actually, soccer makes more sense for football because you're socking someone on every play. And I went, no one's going to go for that, but I could see how you came to that conclusion.
Well, not now. Not now
Not
with
now.
all
It's
the
too
rule
late now. Yeah,
changes, right? You can't whack someone in the head anymore. But yeah, good point.
yeah, yeah. It's much too late to change it. So yes, American football everywhere else, not to be confused with Canadian football, which is a whole different game if you ask me. But I was actually surprised that it's $100 million. You alluded to not as fast as soccer has been growing in the U.S. Just curious, is that something you guys look at as well? Is that we know? Has it grown really? I know that it's grown, but I had no idea it grew faster than football around the world.
Uh, Soccer wasn't introduced into the American school system until 1, 2, 9, 10, about almost 50 years ago. That's the first time elementary school kids were taken out on a field, given a soccer ball, and we all stared at each other. But today it's, I mean, you look at what's going on. Yeah, it's grown tremendously. The high school teams have trouble getting kids to join the baseball team because they're all playing soccer, right? Apple TV has MLB and now is going to have programming specific to Major League Soccer. Yeah, soccer has really become mainstream, and not recently. I mean, this has happened over a long period of time, but especially with the high school kids today and the generation just before them.
And baseball, I don't think it's crazy. Baseball has obviously been on the decline in terms of viewership, participation. I don't think I need to go run stats to know that, right? Am I correct?
But the thing with baseball is they play so many games.
Yeah.
Right? And it's hard to fill a stand on a Tuesday afternoon when guys like you and I are working. That's a little different issue. Still America's sport, though.
Do you think Do you this is crazy because from a dollars and cents perspective, no owner would ever say yes to this. But do you think that they play, whether it be baseball, basketball, like other than football? Because I think that's the beauty of football, is I think they have the right amount of games. Every game means something. That's always, not always, but it's primarily on Sunday afternoon, and you can sit and watch it. Do you feel like it would help a basketball, a hockey, a baseball specifically that plays 162 games to shorten that up? Would that, like, is that really the issue? Because everyone said, oh, the game's too slow, it's too this, it's too that. Maybe it's just you play too much.
Yes. However, the revenues from in arena sales for soda and hot dogs, and now, very chic foods, right? I don't know.
I had sushi the other day. It was delicious.
Right.
Basketball game sushi. Who knew?
Not sure anyone wants to forfeit that, but yeah, they may benefit from it. But in the long run, they do very well, right? When you look over the entire season, the pure number of unduplicated people who do show up, it does total up.
Yeah, no, and that's why I said I get it from a dollars and cents perspective. That'll never happen, but I feel like it would, it would benefit the game and the interest. But you're probably right. Murray Warrenoff from Ad Taxi is helping us out get more fluent with our Super Bowl figures. So here's the last question for you: the trends. So over the last 5 years that you've been doing the surveys compared to what the actual numbers have come out, what have you been seeing in terms of increases, decrease, and this is going to be, I know, a prediction, so we won't hold you to it. What do you think is going to happen in the next few years? Are we going to see just continued growth? Is there something on the horizon that you're like, oh, you watch out for this?
Yeah, being a digital guy, despite all the gray hair,
I feel you on that. Don't worry.
It's the way people are consuming this. Right? If over 200 million of us tuned in, and only, if you take out the digital streaming for Fox, just 100 million did so on TV or with their cable hookup, right? More and more of us are watching via streaming, right? And, 8 in 10 U.S. homes have either a smart TV or subscribe to a streaming service. And again, I listed 6 or 7 different streaming services you could have watched this game on. And from a marketing or advertising perspective, right? You said you might have been in the room, but you weren't watching the halftime show. Whatever commercials ran may or may not have pertained to you. But if I'm streaming this digitally, if I'm a marketer, I can target exactly who I want and not pay, let's say, $7 million. And I can, hone my ad dollar, eliminate waste, increase ROI. But again, Nielsen told us this in July 2022, that more people were streaming than were watching on cable or TV. In September, streaming grew its share to over 36, almost 37% of all viewing. But we're all mobile now, right? You can watch anything sitting on a train. You can stare at your phone and watch anything. That is just going to continue. I mean,
why do you think I'm pushing for an autonomous car? Because then I can just watch TV as it drives me to work. It's great.
Right. But because this is what you do for a living, right? You know the power of digital, and speaking to your audience, the people with the highest level of interest. You're not talking per se to a 60-year-old retiree female, right? I mean, what you can do with digital, and what we've seen now, again, with the just incredible movement to it. Cord cutting continues. Last year, what was an incredible year for the number of U.S. homes, again, cutting their cable. Cable used to be around 2/3 of all homes in the U.S., and now, as we speak, it's dipping below 40%. Twice as many homes now have a streaming device. That trend is just going to continue. It's already mainstream here in the U.S.
Oh, for sure.
But it's going to continue. It's unreal.
So I just want clarification, because you had mentioned this, and I just want to be clear. So streaming device. So I have in one room like a cable, setup, but in another room I have the same cable company's streaming box, which is a live streaming service, but through the same company. Is that considered streaming, or does the cable company
Yes,
get
it
the credit
is.
for that? Okay.
Yes, it is. As a matter of fact, head guy over at NBC Universal is pushing more and more of this stuff to streaming, because he said they're managing decline with their audience on traditional TV sets or hardwired cable. So yes, it's not a style of show. It's the manner in which you receive or consume the content.
Right.
And that's why measurement becomes so screwy, so to speak. People who watch cable think they're watching TV. People who are streaming Fox may say, "Oh, I'm watching Fox TV," but it's the
actually
method.
streaming.
It's Karl Marx said, "Whoever controls the means of distribution wins." Right? It's the means of distribution. And
Yeah, because I like I said, I always use my own household because it's a very tech household, and one house is one TV is cable,
one
is
TV.
a streaming service. The rec room where the kids are, they have the TV, but it's through the TV's internal streaming services.
Well,
And then
two-thirds of all streaming is still occurring on a TV set.
yeah, oh for sure. And then my son has his iPads and he's watching a basketball game, or we watch something else because he has a crazy obsession. Awesome. That's so I guess that's the trend, right? We're clearly, is cable gonna go the way of the home phone? Do we see that ever happening where it's just, I don't want to say dead, is the home phone's dead though, right? Technically. I guess some people still have it, but the landline, is cable TV going the way of the landline?
Their success over recent years has been selling more to existing customers, which is declining. So they're able to, in the short term, to maintain some revenue, maybe even show some growth. But they too, right? You turn on your, I don't want to spit out names, but your typical large cable company here in the US, and all of a sudden now they're offering all the free streaming services you can get with your Roku TV.
Right.
Or so they're trying to adapt. They're trying to stay ahead of it. Much like newspapers have done very successfully with their digital replicas. It's amazing when you look at this audience, how large it is and who they are. So cable somehow has to get to this point. I don't know what broadcast TV is going to do. I don't know. That's a tough spot.
All right. Well, I guess we will see. Good luck to the Philadelphia Eagles next year. You guys,
Giants. I'll take the Giants. Any East Coast
Giants. What about the Jets? What about, are you not the Jets?
I would have rooted for the Jets.
So Jets,
Broncos.
Giants,
I don't.
anybody in that vicinity, we're going for. All right. Bills upstate though, right? No, not the Bills. They're too far up.
I would have gone for the Bills.
Oh, okay. Well, congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs. Murray Warnoff from Ad Taxi. Is it Ad Taxi? What is there's a site, because you actually had said to me before they can go on and see all the results of the surveys and everything. Where can everyone go see that?
Oh, that's at adtaxi.com, plain and simple.
Oh, perfect.
To flush out some of these numbers we've talked about and some of the trends. But I'm hoping you have me on again, because we didn't touch on gambling.
Oh,
right. So you're going to have me back on sometime. I'm sure your audience is really interested in that.
Why don't you give us a quick little?
No, got to go.
Okay, we're gonna have Murray. We're gonna have to have Murray back on to talk about gambling, because that is huge, especially
Right.
with so many it becoming legal in more and more places. Can we actually do that? Can we do one specifically to gambling? Just
That's up to
gambling.
you. That's up to, we could also talk about these white balloons we're finding over our airspace. Whatever you want.
Are they white balloons or are they UFOs?
As much as I would like to believe in UFOs, I'm going to go with the balloon right now. I don't know.
Someone said to me, but they just came right out and said they weren't UFOs. And I said, let's be honest. I don't believe in UFOs, but I would love. What are they going to say? Yes, they're UFOs. Aliens are coming for us. They would never. It would cause mass hysteria. They couldn't do that, right?
I can't believe an air-filled balloon could make it through interstellar space, right? However, no one's told me what it is. I don't know what they are, half of them. So to me, they are unidentified. So yeah.
All right, perfect. Murray, we're definitely going to have you back. I'll message you and figure out a time and date. Until next time, Fluent and Chill. This is Fluent Figures.
Now you're more fluent.